Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Welcome to Game Plan for Retirement with Chris Mcintire. Mcintire Retirement Services, Northwest Ohio's retirement planning resource.
And welcome into the program. This is your Game Plan for Retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for that common sense approach to planning, that need to know information about your financial future and retirement. He is Chris Mcintire, president and founder of Mcintire Retirement Services, broadcasting from the trading desk there at Mcintire Retirement Services today. Chris?
Hey, buddy, it's getting busy up here, that's for sure. And, the nice thing about working from home and after about 9 months into this is, the ability to be dressed a little bit more casual and still conduct all the meetings that you need to. So as you know, you benefit from it as much as I do.
You got pants on today though, right, Chris?
Yeah, no PJs.
Excellent. Yeah, we've all seen the funny commercials where the folks have kids in the background going crazy or no pants on, and then some kind of accident exposes that during the course of their Zoom meeting. But fully clothed here for those of you watching on the video, and of course bringing you the information that you need to know about your planning efforts. And being that, Chris, this is Valentine's Day weekend, we thought we would dedicate some time to talk about protecting our spouse, protecting our family, protecting our loved ones, those that we care the most about and who care for us. We need to do some specific planning to provide as much financial security and protection for them.
Yeah, roses and chocolate will get you through the weekend, but you need to go a little bit further than that, obviously. And, reminds me of an important meeting that we had just had recently with some folks I'd known from that, in our personal lives for many, many years, sold a business. They were retiring, going to move up north, beautiful northern Michigan there, and needed to structure some income in case something happened to one of them. So this plays right into the show then.
Absolutely. Well, on this program, we'll talk about what we can do to protect our spouse and our family, maybe give a few examples that Chris, you've encountered specifically during the course of your career and helping so many savers and investors and retirees, retirement-minded individuals, and those already even in the retirement community in Northwestern Ohio. But ladies and gentlemen, if you've got questions or you got concerns, what you need is a plan. You need that tangible plan that you can refer to, that you know that you're on course, where you're at, what you need to be doing to achieve your financial goals in the future. And that's exactly what Chris Mcintire offers to put together with you as an extension of this program. Just for tuning in today, you can take him up on that offer. No cost, no obligation. Just give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. And Chris, you've probably seen it in my household. I know it's true. In my parents' household, I know it was true. There's often kind of one person that handles the finances, and we won't be too much categorizing who that is necessarily on one side or the other. It's just that, between a husband, between a wife, between partners, oftentimes there's the responsibility of one of those individuals that takes on the burden of the planning, but the other person cannot be in the dark, and the responsibility for that person really is increased because they are not handling or maybe are as knowledgeable about what's going on in their financial lives.
Many folks that we help along the way, Peter, fell into that same, let's call it the old school trap where, and we could say some cases it's the husband that is the dominant decision maker financially. Some cases it's the wife. And I would probably break it down in what we see. It's 50-50.
Yep.
The baby boom generation. And I know how my wife and I work here in the house. We split everything down the middle. She gets 70, I get 30. And, right. That's how it works. But you're exactly right. In today's world, it's more than, well, we retired with a pension and Social Security, everything's fine. It's right now it's so different because we have so many more folks that don't have the pensions. And if somebody passes away, as Peter knows, and where we're going to go here, guys, is, if I got two clients that are both retired collecting Social Security benefits, and one of them passes away, the surviving spouse then gets, I'm going to say, a combination of the greatest benefit there. So if you were getting 1,500 and your spouse was getting 2,000, then you're going to get 2,000 when there's only one remaining.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You don't necessarily get their benefit. You get yours and a supplement. It's a combination, but you end up bumping up to the higher amount, right, Chris?
That's correct. But, even $1,500 that you lose, that's $18,000 a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Anywhere from a 1/3 to a 1/2 pay cut in Social Security alone.
Correct. And then here in the state of Ohio, we have a ton of teachers and government employees. And in the state of Ohio, government employees, state teachers do not pay into the Social Security aspect of it. So they deal with what's called the windfall elimination provision, the government pension offset. And in some cases, when their spouse dies, they don't get any Social Security whatsoever because of their government pension. So, we have to be extra diligent there. And a lot of times, Peter, that's where we'll structure like a life insurance policy so that, and sometimes it's a 10-year term policy, just in case something happens in those first 10 years. Sometimes it's a more permanent type of insurance there, kind of depending on the situation. But, we want to offload that risk as cheaply as we possibly can. And that's where term insurance comes into play often.
You mentioned the WEP, the windfall elimination, and Chris, Social Security obviously impacted. Another one where oftentimes we see through oversight or just not having complete information, where a spouse may leave another with a reduced pension amount, or even that pension disappears completely when that spouse passes away.
Certainly. And, another risk that we have to try to help people mitigate and understand, when you are filling out the paperwork, when you retire, you're making some very permanent decisions. And this is the area that Peter and I talk about on a weekly basis, that, look, you want to know, what your options are before you have to fill out that paperwork. And, don't put it off till the last minute. If you're going to look at a different pension option that's not leaving 100% survivor benefit, does it make sense to do a term insurance policy to help cover that first 5 or 10 years, just in case something was to happen, unexpectedly? Well, you need to know if you can get underwritten to get insurance in the first place. So again, you want to do some of these things, at 5 years ahead of time in all reality,
Yeah, Chris, it strikes me, given the long-term consequences and the proactive nature of the planning that you do, especially with lifelong decisions and decisions that will impact even after our own lifetimes, will impact our family and our spouse and our loved ones, with Social Security and with pensions. We don't need this information at 85 or 90 when it may happen that we do pass. We need this information at 60 and 62 and 65 when we're making these decisions, because ultimately those are the decisions at that point in time that are going to impact our family after we're gone.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And in my personal case right now, Peter, Rob, my wife and I have been caring for a dear friend of ours who's in a memory care unit at about $8,000 a month. That's $100,000 a year. I'm 55 years old, and I've actually upped my life insurance with the long-term care protection on it. And I'm in underwriting as we are recording this show right now, so that, because I know I can get underwritten now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get underwritten at age 62, and it's a lot cheaper at age 55 than it is at 62. That doesn't mean if you're 62, don't take this serious, because it's going to be more expensive at age 68 is, the other side. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Well, and Chris, you've made the decision to do that and to proceed with that as a result of what you have seen in the situations where you have helped others.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be insurance poor, but I also don't want to be financially poor or leave my spouse destitute because we chose not to do any planning, knowing that there's a 50% chance one of us is going to spend some time in a nursing facility or long-term care facility or need in-home care of significance. And I don't want to sell everything I've ever worked for to pay for that when, God, for, a few $1,000s a year, I can offset that risk. That makes complete sense to me because I live it and we deal with it every day. in our
Chris,
practice.
You mentioned life insurance a couple times. Do you feel that that is an appropriate solution? That is an appropriate consideration when looking at the potential loss of Social Security income, the potential reduction of a pension income, the potential later in life expenses that can result from extensive medical situations?
Sure. Let's take the example we were just talking about there previously. Somebody loses a $1,500 a month Social Security benefit. For some folks, that's a life-changing amount of money. For other folks that are listening, that's nothing. Okay? That's $18,000 a year over 20 years. That's $360,000, not including the indexing for inflation. Where are you going to make up that difference? Somebody listening today's got enough money, they don't need to worry about it, and that's good. Okay. They know that risk and they've already they assume that they can financially handle that. But for pennies on the dollar, you can offset that risk. And if nothing else, you've just created a windfall of income tax-free money. Where else can you do that?
Chris, I feel like we might be able to easily convince ourselves that maybe we don't need life insurance on the day that we retire. We've got the largest lump sum we've ever personally possessed and built and accumulated. The house is paid off, maybe. The kids are gone. They're no longer on the payroll, so we don't have to replace that. But over the course of retirement, which can be a pretty long period of time, 20, 25, 30 years or more here, there is the possibility that we spend down that lump sum that gave us that confidence. Wouldn't we feel more confident and lead a more fulfilled retirement with our spouse, spending together and enjoying our time, knowing that we've given them the ability to refill that bucket that gave us the confidence in the first place?
Well, absolutely. Knowing that, hey, we can spend some extra dollars. If something happens to me, we're going to replenish those buckets, or if something happens to your spouse, if you got two folks in there, it makes sense to have protection on both ends. Man, it just gives you some more peace of mind. I feel very comfortable knowing how much life insurance I have. And I guarantee you it's more than anybody that's listening to the show today, but I'm in the business and I see the benefit of it. And nobody, but here's a good question. Ed Slott brings this up to us, the IRA expert, right? IRAs are all taxable. He said, how much life insurance that's income tax-free would you want to have on the day that you die if you knew when you were going to die?
As much as possible, right?
Yeah. I'd want to win the lottery, basically, and you just don't know when you're going to win the lottery with life insurance. But the income tax-free side of it, the long-term care aspect of it, that new policies can have. So, a lot of different elements, obviously, out there. I don't want to come across here as a life insurance salesman, but how do you not get passionate about all the benefits that it has? Nothing else does what life insurance has the ability to do. It's just most people don't administer their policies and look out after them. They sell them and they move on. They don't go back and re-illustrate them to make sure that they're healthy and whatnot,
Part of the planning process and one of the tools in a comprehensive plan. And certainly, Chris, there are many tools that you have access to, but today on the program, talking about how we need to and how we can provide as much protection to our spouse, to our families, to our loved ones, and certainly part of the conversation has got to revolve around life insurance and the benefits that it can provide. Now, Chris, you've already made mention there are different types, there are different structures, and then the decision of how much to have, that's all going to be on a very individual case-by-case basis, correct?
That is correct. Yep. And, personally, I want to have as much as I possibly can, and, it's almost $3 million of life insurance I have right now. Right. I don't want my wife to worry.
Personal testimony.
and I don't want my wife to worry.
Well, again, if you have questions, if you have concerns about protecting your spouse, your family, your loved ones, that's why you need a game plan for retirement, that plan in your hands. Chris Mcintire can help you put that together. It will be a snapshot of where you are now. Begin there. And just that alone is often worth the time, the investment that you will make of your time to get that snapshot, to get a better understanding of where you stand. And then a discussion of goals and dreams and hopes for the future, what you aspire to, as well as concerns. Chris will map out what you need to do, the steps, the actionable items that you should be taking in order to turn those dreams into reality. And by writing them down, having them written in the plan, you are more likely to achieve those goals. That has been proven over and over again. If you would like to get that game plan for retirement in your hands, pick up the phone. Simple, easy to understand steps, concise language that you can digest and then you can execute on. 800-868-1194, the number to call. That's 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. I don't want the whole program to revolve around life insurance here, Chris, but another benefit you mentioned briefly that I don't think is really truly widely known or understood is that life insurance is not just about the day after you pass away. There are a lot of life insurance structures these days that make available that death benefit during your life if you have extensive medical circumstances require long-term care. And you touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you had a $200,000 life insurance policy and you can add, if you went into a long-term care facility or even home health care and can access 2% of that a month, that's $4,000 a month that you're drawing out of a life insurance policy that would normally pay when you die, but you can have some living benefits to them. Peter, you and I have talked about the income that you can also structure out of a properly funded life insurance policy. Again, that is very tax efficient. And it's the biggest thing that where I put the largest concentration of my retirement dollars is funding a life insurance policy for an income stream in my retirement. If a life insurance company can do an annuity with lifetime income, pretty safe to say they can do the same thing on a life insurance policy as well.
Well, again, if you would like to explore these options, if you would like to look at how to protect yourself and your family, your spouse, your loved ones from the potential for extended medical expenses, or if you would like to just give that kind of reassurance that that issue has been discussed and handled and that you've leveraged your money to provide as much protection as possible in a way that's not use it or lose it. You get some benefit from this. And that's, I think, the best feature of these new iterations. Pick up the phone, give Chris Mcintire a call, 800-868-1194.
Yeah, Peter, and think about it like this way. For all you gentlemen that are listening to us today, when you go home tonight and you look at your wife in the eyes and you say, I think you're going to be okay if something happens to me. Wouldn't it be better to say, I know you're going to be okay, if something happens to me? You and the kids are going to be fine, and the grandkids, we're going to fund their college should something happen to me. Somebody's going to water the flowers on our gravesite every April. We don't have anything to worry about. We took care of them,
Talk about a Valentine's Day present. I mean, really, Chris.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. What a great act of love that is to ensure someone's financial security in the event something happens unforeseen. And I'm here to tell you, folks, unforeseen things happen all the time.
Yeah, better than a bouquet of flowers or a box of chocolates. Again, to give your family, your spouse, your loved ones that reassurance, give Chris Mcintire a call. He can walk through the planning process with you. It's a holistic discussion of your total plan, but certainly the survivorship income question, the protection that you're providing to your family after your life, the legacy that you'll leave, that will be part of the discussion. Not everybody's top priority, Chris. There are some that just want to make sure that they've got enough to last throughout retirement, that they don't run out. And then there are some that are talking about that legacy and how can we create the most? How can we leverage our dollars? Whichever category you fall into, obviously there's going to be some discussion of the other, and you want to be as efficient as possible and leverage your money. That's what the plan is all about. Chris Mcintire can help put that together for you, that game plan for retirement. Again, get in touch by calling 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. And Chris, again, not to stereotype, but in the household, a lot of times one person is more in tune with the investments and the retirement accounts and the market and might be more comfortable with that. That individual needs to take some steps to plan so that the other, whoever it may be, the husband, the wife, whichever partner in the household it may be that is less in tune with that and maybe less comfortable, knows the steps to take. And Chris, having a third party partner such as yourself, a planning professional as a resource to go to during that time would also probably be very beneficial as well.
Yep. Sometimes we're a quasi marriage counselor because if someone has been very dominant in the decision-making process, they may not have any idea what the other spouse truly worries about. and, I mean, we've got some examples of a friend of ours, close to where we live, went in for some heart surgery just before Christmas and still has not come out of that yet. That was very unforeseen. So, Peter brings up these topics here today, buddy, and the timing couldn't have been any better on, unforeseen events. And that's what retirement planning is all about, is planning for some unforeseen events. And, boy, we sure hope everybody rides off into the sunsets, but that's not always the case. If it was, we wouldn't have nursing homes filled with white widowed females. Right? That is the demographic that is out there that, are the unprotected, that are writing the checks for $8,000 a month and, and spending themselves into poverty basically before Medicaid pays the bill. Right?
Yep. And of course, that's another factor that we need to plan in advance for, because I know that a lot of people say, okay, well, Medicaid will be there. But before Medicaid kicks in, they essentially require you to spend yourself down to really below a poverty level.
Yep, exactly. And some people say, well, my daughter says she'll take care of me. Your daughter's going to come in and take care of you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, wouldn't you want to be able to pay for her? Wouldn't you want to be able to pay her?
That's a lot of burden and responsibility to place on your loved ones, especially when it's likely to happen. If you think about the timeline, that is likely to occur during their peak earning years as they're trying to prepare themselves for a stable, secure retirement. Now, you don't want to draw down from that and their ability to achieve that.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. I mean, the person that we were helping taking care of, we were spending $16,000 a month for 24-hour care in the house. $16,000 a month. That's $200,000 a year to stay in your home. Thankfully, 9,000 of that came from their long-term care policy. Okay? That person has now moved into a memory care unit, and that $9,000 a month out of the long-term care policy covers 100% of that bill.
Chris, we've talked a lot on today's program about after our lifetime, but sad reality is that death is sometimes not the worst of all possible outcomes. If we are even younger, maybe during our working career, and suffer some kind of injury or disability, we've got to protect our family and our loved one from that possibility as well.
Yes. And, you want to make sure that your estate planning documents are up to speed as well. I mean, it's as strong as the weakest link that is out there. And, you hear about it all the time with all the celebrities and whatnot. And, that's where people that have, had made things that steer clear of the probate process and maybe have a trust in place, but powers of attorney, living wills, so on and so forth, Peter. And, that's all part of the planning process. It's a lot more than I got a big fat 401k, we should be okay. Well, did you think about this, that, and the other thing, the taxation of those withdrawals, the Medicare premiums because of the taxation on those withdrawals, and a lot of those circumstances as well. And, the inflation side of things, that's where we're going to be growing some more concerns as we continue to balloon this deficit, is that, is inflation going to take hold? And, we've talked previously, the Federal Reserve says they're going to let inflation get ahead so they can keep the interest rates down low and even let inflation maybe get above that 2% target, which is what the Fed usually does. And obviously the new change in administrations and all that, we got to digest where all that's going to go as well.
Yeah, but that's a publicized willingness to double what we have been seeing for inflation for quite some time. So if we double that rate, how does that truly impact us as we go to the grocery store, as we buy our kind of routine items, as life gets more expensive, as the utilities and the bills are going to reflect that as well? We've got to provide some ability to continue to pay for just those structural, foundational, subsistence kind of living expenses. And Chris, I know that there's a few ways that you help people to structure that into their plans: the spend and leave plan, or the protect principal and live off the interest plan, or setting up some type of structure for generating lifetime income that can increase as the years goes by.
That's perfect, Peter. Yep, that generating that increasing lifetime income. So for those of you that get the standard pension from a private practice, so to speak, I had a couple of clients that worked in the trade unions and they retired in their 50s. So, here they are in their mid 60s, still getting the same amount of money they were getting in their early 50s. So if inflation is at, say, I'll just use 6% on everything you buy just to have an easy number. That means in 12 years, they need twice as much income to buy the same things they did when they first retired.
Chris, I'll note that has, obviously some challenges and some difficulties, but even that situation is better than the individuals that were living off of assets and didn't structure some lifetime income. Because if they run out of money, if that asset runs dry, the account balance goes to zero, they don't have that income to rely on. Yes, those individuals from the trade unions, they had the pension, it remained flat. The old saying was grandma or grandpa, they're on a very fixed income. And that's what that denoted. A set amount of income you have to live off of. But today's version of that is grandma or grandpa ran out of money. And I think that one is even a little more scary, obviously.
Absolutely. Why not have some income insurance and, at least cover the base expenses. And then that way, your investments can perform and give you some icing on the cake over time. But lay out and get those basic living expenses covered, or have that plan set in place that you can trigger whenever you need to. And you got to do these things ahead of time, not after the fact. Be proactive, not reactive. You'll be much more satisfied, folks.
Yeah. So today on the program, talking about protecting your spouse, protecting your loved ones, we talked about the importance of pre-planning, doing this proactively. Social Security has survivorship income implications. Pensions often have survivorship income implications. Life insurance is a tool, but we got to make sure those bills remain covered. You got to give your spouse the access, the knowledge, the awareness of where the accounts are, the bank accounts, the investment accounts, the retirement accounts. They've got to know what's going on, or else they'll be waiting around for the mail to show up for years after we pass away. And Chris, I know certain cases where that has been the case, where individuals didn't know where things were. They were waiting around literally for statements to show up in the mail just to find out if there was another retirement account or life insurance account somewhere. So the documents, especially those legal documents that you mentioned, the wills, the power of healthcare, the medical directives, power of attorney, and of course in today's society, Chris, and in our online world, access to accounts and passwords is another kind of newer version of estate planning that we need to worry about. All of these things, Chris, you help people through and kind of give some instruction on what to do, obviously to prepare for, but especially when a spouse passes away, holding people's hands and walking them through these processes.
Sure, Peter. And we're passionate about what we do. Obviously, if you can't pick up on the tone here on some of these topics that, have affected us personally. So folks, it's 2021. Make a plan here to get some of the things taken care of for yourselves and your family. Give Heidi a call at the office. She'll get us set up on a Zoom, an in-person meeting, whatever we need to do here, and start this process where we can help you educate yourselves on all the things that you need to do.
Finally, Chris, here on the program, talking about legacy, protecting our spouses and families, there's been a lot of talk of change for the estate tax, and it was a very high level of assets that could pass on without estate tax. They're talking about changing that. If that is a concern, obviously proactive pre-planning is essential for individuals that might be subject to that.
Yeah, and the downside of printing money and running huge deficits is at some point the government will need revenue to pay the bill on all of that, and those are some things that could certainly change.
Well, again, we've been talking today with Chris Mcintire, Northwestern Ohio's resource for that common sense approach to planning. Savers, investors, retirement-minded individuals, those already in the retirement community, you've got to do some pre-planning here. And being Valentine's Day weekend, the topic of the program today, making sure financially we are doing everything that we can, everything that is needed and necessary to protect our spouse, to protect our loved ones, to protect our family. Chris Mcintire willing to put that plan together with you, for you, the snapshot of where you are, the discussion of the goals, documenting those, writing them down so that you can work to achieve them, and then a list of actionable items, a timeline of when you should execute those to make those dreams, to make those goals a reality. If you'd like to learn more about paying less in taxes, about keeping more of your money, about providing your family more security, you need that plan in your hands. Dedicate just a little of your time. That's the investment, no cost, no obligation. Chris Mcintire willing to donate his time to make sure that you have that plan in your hands. Pick up the phone and give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194.
Yeah. Hey, guys. And remember, if you're in the Fremont area, stop by the cookie lady and take the wife home some chocolate chip cookies. It's a can't miss. At least that's what I've been told. Enjoy.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure speaking with Chris Mcintire, and he's looking forward to hearing from you, helping any way he can, making sure you have that plan, willing to put it together for you with no cost, no obligation. So give a call now, 800-868-1194. Always a pleasure. Look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care.
Visit McIntyreRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris Mcintire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Indexed or fixed annuities are not designed for short-term investments and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract.